Focus bracketing and focus stacking is one very essential technique in macro photography. Almost everyone does it and everyone wants to do it right. This live focus stacking tutorial video will show you how I stack and clean it up from beginning to the end, as well as tips and tricks to get an all-round flawless stack, so stick around. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be using Helicon Focus. That is what I always use for all my focus stacks. And this is a picture of a wolf spider with spray, of course. They're my favorite things to photograph. So I'm going to render it now. If you observe, I have the front of the legs a little bit out of focus. That was very intentional while selecting. It's not as if I started the bracket from there, but sometimes when I have to, I just do it that way in the bracket. And when I'm selecting, I always decide to not pick that one. Now the first shot of the bracket is something I never use, because right after you click the shutter and then kind of like maybe have your finger on it or maybe take it out, there's going to be a slight shake, whereby if you include it in the stack, it's going to affect the others. Like it's going to not very much align with what you are going to have the others be. That is the first tip. Don't start with the actual first shot of the bracket, just discard that. So this means you always have to give a little space before you start the bracket, or just know that you're not going to use it. For me, I always like the front legs to be a little bit out of focus, and this is to create depth and realism. You could check out my previous video which was about that focus bracketing mistake. So yeah, that's how I do mine. So I'm just going to wait for this to load up. And yeah, this is what we have. It looks clean, like quite clean enough. In case you're wondering, I'm using method C. For sure, I know this isn't going to be perfect, so I'll just go to retouching, and I like zooming in so much. So this spider was a very tiny one. I'll scroll around to check things. Now the first thing I do when I put pictures up for stacking is to just scroll around. No editing, I'm just moving around checking things, and that will help me get an overview of the entire subject and scene and the stack, to kind of like know where the mistakes are, so that I know where to clean when I begin to clean, because I like my stacks to be very flawless. The advantage of keeping the stack not too deep, like you give it depth in the front and in the back, is that it's not going to be very messy. Like you won't have details scattered all over the place, so it makes it very easy to clean up. Saves time too. So this is a very decent stack. Even if I had to save it this way and just go on to edit, it would still be good enough. But I've seen a couple of mistakes. Not like mistake, but things that the software didn't do right, and I'll just show you right now. Because I'm almost always stacking spiders, I know where there's often a mistake, things that the software does not perfect. And one of those is the spike, these things on the legs. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I pay attention to all these things. If you observe, the hair and the body, it's kind of like merged together. Intertwining details, that is something I don't like whenever I'm editing spider stacks. I'm going to take that out first. So the first thing I'll do is detect which image that is on. I think it's the next one. And I'll just start by cleaning it up. For more accuracy, I zoom in more than usual to have more accuracy, and when it's still not enough, I just keep increasing the zoom. It's been a very long time since my last focus stacking. I hope I don't forget some steps. Now the funny thing is, when we share these images, no one is really going to know that these kind of things happen. I mean, no one pays attention to it, probably except me. I do check out all these things on some images of others, but it's nothing serious. another leg here. Sorry, spike. So depending on the length of this video, we may have this video be 2 parts, and this could just be the first part because there are so many tips and tricks I want to share with you concerning focus stacking. If you pay attention, you see the difference that has made. I dragged it. So how I do the dragging, left click, then I'll touch the cursor and I'll move to wherever point I want to clean up. Then I'll take my hand off the cursor, but I'm still left clicking, and then I'll right click, and that will do it. So here is another one. F9 and I'll load the frame. If it's not exactly the frame, I'll just scroll up and take another one on top of it or below it, and then I'll decide which one I really want to work on. So that's something else you have to note. Just simplifies the workflow. And I'm doing the holding and dragging again. Saves time and sometimes increases the accuracy. F9. Pick one above it because I want to clean up this side. Then I'll come around here a little bit and drag. The advantage of zooming out when you are in for so long is that it helps you get an overview of the entire picture, the entire scene, so you get to see other details you've probably missed out on. In a situation like this, there are 2 things I can do. The first is to clean this up, which of course would yield a nice result. Just clean it up right now. But the second thing is what I like calling the elimination method. This method is all about places like this where the detail, for example that spike, is a bit irrelevant to the picture. I could just clean up the spike and make this place to be so natural as if there was nothing there. And that is going to depend on how this part is going to be when I click on the frame. Doesn't look very bad from here. So I'll just find the right one that, yes, you see there, it has more details. That is because sometimes trying to clean it up, this other one, because of how tiny the hairs at this part get, it may not look very nice. So I'm going to try this. This is the elimination method right now. See, it looks more clean that way. I'm removing that hair. Now, sometimes I don't completely remove the hair, but I get it to a point whereby I make it fade off properly. It just fades off as if the hair was a very tiny one. That is why it's called the elimination method. I just named it myself. I've been using it for a while now. Mainly works on huntsman spiders. They have lots of hairs that are usually intertwining, so it works on them a lot. If it's not very perfect, you could always clone, stamp and all of it, but we are not going to waste much time right now, so we'll just leave it there. Now that is one part that I use elimination method. I'm going to show you the second part which I use elimination method, and you'll get to understand why I use this method. So right from the start, I said this was a very clean start. There wasn't much movement and all. So I kind of like nitpick to find any other place I can use to show you one or two. Yes, something else, which sometimes is always pretty, other times it's not. See, the initial stack, like the initial picture, the first one has more of this in focus, but when it's stacked, less of it is in focus, and it almost completely exposes the tiny stick behind it. So what I'll do is I'll take the first one and I'll wipe it again. It looks a bit fake, so later on I'll just use the brush, like right now. And slowly clean it off. Now it's still not properly blended, so what I'll do is I'll move down till like another frame, pick it up, and I'll increase this so it kind of like increases the feathering. Then I'll brush it again. Now I'll go back to the brush and wipe it. Then I'll do it again. Now when this shot is edited, that area is going to look more concentrated than it was initially when this wasn't edited in. One reason why I do this is because I feel when it's too out of focus, it almost makes it seem as if the leg is invisible. as if it wasn't there. Somehow that may not look very well. So that is why I do it this way, to give the leg that was there a little bit of character, make it more visible, like more present. So I do that. I think this is a very optional trick, but I just like doing it. Blend it up. Blending is very important in focus, stacking, retouching. So that is something else that is a trick while editing. And maybe if the first one feels a little bit too hard, you could pick another image that comes before or after it, and it will just help blend it in. So this is the full image. If you observe, it has depth, like where it starts, where it falls off. That's one thing that really makes stacking beautiful. I like it when stacks look like single shots. It's really beautiful that way. So that's it for this video. I hope you've learned a trick or two. I'm going to use another picture to make another video, which is going to be the part 2 of this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you want to support the channel, I have a buy me a coffee link in the bio. You could as well join any of the membership tiers, which would enable you to learn one-on-one with me and so many other kind of benefits.